What's good, y'all? Benny here, and today I'm going to be comparing these two Itadori figures. So, on the left we have the SH Figuarts version, and then on the right we have the Figma version, which I just reviewed. And I've actually had the Figuarts one for a long time now, like over a year, but I just never really reviewed it because I don't know, I didn't really feel like it. But yeah, now I have these two Itadori figures to compare, and yeah, so before we take a look at the figures themselves, let's take a look at their respective packaging. So, the Figuarts here is pretty small and compact. You get some nice artwork or promotional pictures up here, nice orange color in the background, and then you get this window. The other side showing some promotional pics, and then there's the other side. It says Yuji Itadori, Jujutsu Kaisen right there, and on the back we have some promotional pictures, and yeah. And then Figma, you already know the deal if you've seen this review, so I'm not gonna drag on. So, taking a look at the figures themselves, let's take a look at how the Figuarts one looks first, because this one released first, and it's the first one I got, so yeah, let's take a look at how the Figuarts looks while the Figma falls over for some reason. I'll just have him leaning in the back. There we go. So the Figuarts one does still look pretty good. I have to preface though, I added a matte finish to the torso because originally this figure had an awful glossy sheen, and that is not something you want to have on a figure that costs you like $50-$60. I don't know why Bandai just refuses to just add a matte finish to their figures, but it really throws everything off and makes them look more cheap than they actually are. But yeah, overall it does look pretty good. I don't really have a lot of complaints. I do have some complaints though. First off, the hands, they're fucking massive, dude. Look at those hands. Like, if he just punch you lightly, if he just did this, he would just knock you out. Like, he got big ass clobbering time hands. That's why I like the Figma more. Figma looks a little bit more natural in terms of its proportions and all that. Figuarts looks really bulky. I think he looks wide. I feel like the head is kind of small too. I don't know if it's just me, but yeah, it seems a little bit small. But it's not a huge deal, but it's just something I don't really like about the Figuarts. Again, not a deal breaker or huge deal, but oh my god, this guy just refuses to stand up. But yeah. I also really don't like how the shoes on the Figuarts are more of a dark brown color as opposed to Figma, which are a nice red color. And then just overall, the colors on the Figma are a lot more brighter than the Figuarts. Figuarts feels a lot more muted, and the Figma feels a lot more vibrant and all that. And then taking a look at the face sculpt here, it's not bad. It does look like Itadori. Looks a little bit more like the manga, I think. The hair is a little bit more of again, a brown color. Yeah, then I think the Figma looks better in terms of the face also. It's more accurate to the anime, which I like the anime look more. His hair is actually more pink rather than this I don't know to call it chestnut or walnut brown. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, I just like how the Figma face looks more. It looks better. But I do like the skin tone more of the Figuarts. It looks more natural. Figma has this weird yellow sheen to the skin. Please don't cancel me. That's just how it looks. Yeah, the skin tone on the Figuarts does look more natural. But in aesthetics though, I feel like I'm gonna have to give it to the Figma, because again, it just looks more natural. Figuarts is all bulky, you got them big ass clobbering time hands and all that. While Figma is again natural and more accurate to the anime, which I like more. And then getting into the articulation, I'm not gonna go over the whole thing for both these figures. That's gonna take a long ass time. So instead, I'm just gonna show some things that one figure does better than the other. And here with the Figuarts, I feel like they did the neck better. The neck is just a double ball joint at the top of the head, and then a ball joint at the bottom of the neck. and I like that so much more than the Figma. Look at that. You get all kinds of crazy motion. You can get all kinds of tilt, look all the way down, look all the way up, and yeah, it just feels a lot more free. You can like do whatever you want with this head, as opposed to Figma. It's just a Figma joint, and then the neck is attached to the neck is attached to the scarf, or collar thing. I don't know what to call it, and it does slightly limit the range a little bit. You can still get some decent like tilt and all that, but I don't know. It doesn't really feel as nice as the Figuarts. Also, you have to be really careful because if you just like go crazy with it, this whole neck assembly will pop off. So yeah, that's not really something I like on the Figma. I think the Figuarts did it a lot better. But something the Figma does better than the Figuarts are the butterfly joints. The Figuarts butterfly joints can go forward to about right there. And then the Figma, you kind of just pull it out and then just move it. And yeah, it gets way better range than the Figuarts. Look at that. Now, granted, the joint does look pretty ugly. Like if you just like leave it out, you know, when you pull it out, yeah, it looks fucking ugly. But if you know, I don't really mind gaps on action figures sometimes because it does help with the articulation a lot. I apologize if my stuff is getting off angle, off the camera. But yeah. So Figma did the the butterfly joints way better. And then in terms of elbows, they get basically the same range. I kind of like how the Figuarts elbows look a little bit more than the Figma, and just some of the joints on the Figuarts look more natural as well, like the knee bend. Knee bend looks way better on the Figuarts. The Figma is just, you know, the disc joint or whatever, and it looks kind of ugly, if I'm being honest. So yeah, that is something the Figuarts did better. And then something the Figma does better is the ab crunch, because this is as far as Figuarts will go. That's as far, like, I pushed it to its very limit. The Figma, boom, crunches way further. So yeah, that is something the Figma does better than the Figuarts. And oh my god, he just refuses to stand up. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, something the Figma also does better is the thigh swivel. Well, actually no. Figuarts does have a better thigh swivel because, you know, it's actually a thigh swivel. The Figma is a bit limited, but I like how it looks more on the Figma because on the Figuarts it's just a drastic cut and it looks kind of weird. But yeah, it does get better range though, so yeah. And then everything else is about the same, you know, ankles same, toe joints same. Yeah. So, in terms of articulation, I'm gonna have to give it again to the Figma, because it does some things better. But the Figuarts does also do some things better, like the neck, and then just like how the joints look in general. Yeah. And then in terms of accessories, yeah, Figma stomps all over the Figuarts in terms of accessories. Figuarts is very bare bones. It just gets 3 faceplates, 4 or I guess 5 alternate hands if you're not counting the fist hands as well, and then the cursed energy effects. And then the Figma, you get all those kinds of different hands. You get you get one more face, and you also get the black flash effect. And yeah. Let's just compare the cursed energy effects really quickly. This is the Figuarts on the left, and then this is Figma. But yeah, Figma did it way better. It looks way more accurate. I feel like Figuarts is really like cheaped out. It's just translucent blue plastic, and that's it. And then the Figma, it's nice translucent blue, but it also fades. It's like a darker blue, and then there's like black paint on the ends, and it just looks really nice overall. So yeah. I will say the Figuarts did do the Sukuna hand better, because I feel it has more detail. It's just painted better on the Figuarts, so I will give it that. And then comparing the Sukuna faces, yeah, Figma also did it way better. Has way better expression. It's a nice, like, sinister grin, and then this Figuarts is like, ooh, I'm looking down on you, ooh. It's not a bad face by any means, but I just hate how he's permanently just looking down. Um, and the only way you can get him to look forward is if you buy Megumi. So that's really stupid. But yeah, Figma did the Sukuna face way better. And yeah. And if you're wondering if the black flash effect can work on the Figuarts, let me just position this right here. It can. It's kind of a wedge in there. You have to kind of. There you go. So yeah, it can work on the Figuarts, but I wouldn't suggest leaving it in there for too long because it might, stretch the plastic on the effect, and then you won't be able to use it with the Figma. But yeah, Figma just stomps all over the Figuarts one in terms of accessory. Now getting into these size comparisons, I'm not gonna do too many size comparisons because there's kind of an obvious one we have to do. But yeah, here's just a random one. Here we got Symbiote Spider-Man from Marvel Legends, and then just a Moon Knight back here for like no reason. But yeah, the Figma is like a hair shorter than the Figuarts, but I still feel like it works pretty well with other figures. And then here they are next to the SH Figuarts Gojo. And honestly, I feel like the Figma looks a little bit better with the Figuarts Gojo. I'm hoping I can get the Figma Gojo soon so that I can compare the two figures. But for now, yeah, here they are next to Gojo. I feel like Figuarts looks a little bit tall. I don't know. Maybe the Figuarts one is correct, but for me personally, I just like how the Figma scales more. But yeah. So yeah, in terms of which figure is better, it's obvious by now. I think the Figma is way better. Figma looks better in my opinion, has way better accessories, and has better articulation in some aspects. But yeah. But the Figuarts is still really good though. I won't deny that. Figuarts is still a good figure, and you're paying a higher price for the Figma. I believe these are both on Amazon right now. Figuarts is about $55 right now, and the Figma is about $75. So if you want, better faces, more accessories, and all that, and you have the extra $20, I'd say go with the Figma. But if you can't get the Figma, Figuarts is still a really good option. I know in this video, it seemed like I was kind of shitting on the Figuarts one, but the Figuarts one isn't bad by any means. But yeah, that's basically it. So yeah.